Why, hello there, and welcome to another episode of the Innovantage podcast, where business meets tech to bring you your competitive edge. As always, I'm your host, Max, and it is my ongoing job and duty to explore that edge between business and tech and to find something interesting for you to listen to and for me to talk about with my guests. Today's topic is going to be a very interesting one for the very sake of it being very relatable to most companies out there, at the very same time not being very much discussed as much, at least not as much as we have discussed other topics on this podcast. I am talking about two functions that every company has, sales and recruiting. And how do those functions combine? How does one influence the other? And what does it mean to run a recruiting agency that focuses specifically on complex sales? To help me on that journey today is my guest, Edvin Vosylius, who is the founder of a European recruiting agency focusing specifically on hiring salespeople. Vosylius.
Hey, nice
Mr.
to be here.
Vosylius. Yeah, I don't know. I never tried being so formal. Like, do you prefer being like a Mr. Vosylius or
No, it's
everything
not.
is
I think
just-
it's American way, right?
Yeah.
Saying like yes, sir, yes, captain,
Yes, sir.
yeah. So
Yeah, so Edvin is then.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you come to found a agency, and what's your background like?
yeah. So nice to be here. In brief, because I keep telling the story every day, at least once or twice. But for the audience, I will be quite brief. I've been in sales all my life. Started as just simple sales rep. Moved career ladder up. Had some business development gigs in biopharmaceuticals and traditional retail sector. Then moved to the startup field, where I basically joined as a BDM for European market. Then we suddenly hit a success. We expanded to 50 countries globally. And basically I became head of sales for European market. Then I moved to VP of sales to another startup. Then I joined venture capital fund, corporate venture capital fund, where we tried basically to establish one, but it was unsuccessful. Then I joined as a chief sales officer at another startup, where we basically raised 4.5 million euros. And we tried to expand into American market, worked with such brands like Amazon Games, Netflix Games, Warner Bros., and so on. And it failed. We had to close down the business and basically, let it go. All majority of the people, from 60 to 20 in half a year. And it was a big disappointment. And basically I thought all right, maybe I should go and try service business, because all my life I was chasing success in corporate sales and in mid-market sales, in B2B sales, in SaaS, and in other fields. And I thought, all right, I'm going to do it my own agency. And this is how Hermes appeared, was established, right? We are 3.5 years in business, 10 people already, closing 100 roles per year. So yeah, out of disappointment, as I say, I established Hermes. So.
Yeah, that's a great story. I love that you're very open about the failures so far, because when a lot of people hear sales, a lot of people imagine kind of, the bad type of salesperson, the one that pushes an agenda, the one you cannot trust, the one who will never tell you the truth. Speaking about sales kind of as a discipline, what kind of sales would you say you prefer, and what kind of style do you have?
That's a very good topic, because we all imagine that, traditional sales rep is like in a supermarket where they try to sell you a cream or like some beauty products, right? And they catch you from your hand, right? And basically try to sell you something. There are totally different type of sales if we move, to B2B sales, where there is no transactional sales, but basically you try to solve some solution or like you sell solution and you solve an issue, right? To the company. Maybe they want to digitalize their manufacturing facility. Maybe they want, to establish a new entity or establish a new product and so on. So I prefer on a B2B sales, right? School, so to say, and it really matters if you want to move to mid-market, upper market, or into corporate sales, because all of these type of sales, they have totally different approach, totally different style, timeline, tickets, right? As we say it in sales, and yeah. So, but my bread and butter is mid-market. I don't like corporate sales, and I don't like very low transactional sales as well.
So can you tell me why then? Why don't you like? I can understand why don't you like low transactional sales, but why not enterprise sales?
Because with enterprise sales, this is one of the reasons why our startup failed, and because we chose to move to corporate sales path, and what happened that it took you, I don't know, half a year, for example, in best case scenario, half a year to get to the table and to discuss a potential solution. Then it takes you half a year minimum to basically agree on contracts, to agree on conditions. Then it follows proof of concept, which is quite low, right? And quite low paid.
Yeah.
And then if everything is okay and you satisfy their needs, then they says, all right, let's talk again about the proper agreement, right? And it might be that if you're not ready, you're already underwater, right? Your runway and so on. And one more thing, what can happen during that 1 year, 2 years of doing the deal, a management gonna change. And what gonna happen when they say, sorry guys, we now freeze any decision making. Let's come back to it after half a year. And good luck, with all these 2 years of investing your time and energy. So
all too familiar. All too familiar. Yes, I understand that. Indeed. And then maybe we can contrast that with how mid-market works. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so the mid-market usually, business are very efficient on decision making. They don't have many layers, and then they have an issue. You have a solution. You meet. If you match the criteria, if you build the trust, they buy from you. You sell it. You deliver, and it might be that you keep on delivering and keep on working for as long as you find a mutual ground, right? And then if someone really messed it up, you can be a second in a line who the next service provider who gonna fix it, right?
Yeah.
So that's much faster, much easier, much more profitable, most likely, and much more pleasant as well. But it doesn't last so long as enterprise deals for 10, 20 years if you manage to sign such a contract, right?
Indeed. But I agree. I also personally prefer mid-market deals. It feels more personal, kind of if I am a salesperson in that sort of deal. I feel like I have more impact, I guess, because in an enterprise deal, like you said, it's a couple of years, many layers of decision-making processes. A lot of the time, the decision-making process is just a very formal, procurement thing that you can't really control, and the customer can control. Like, he says, I want to buy from you. I tell them that I want to sell him something. But then in the middle, we have regulations that just don't allow
legal team compliance.
Yeah, legal team compliance, yes. And then it just doesn't work. For mid-market, it's usually kind of smaller. It's still large enough where you're not reliant on high volume and constant stream of sales, but it's still small enough where you feel the impact, in my opinion.
I remember one story that my friend told. He said he works at corporate, and he said we bought a solution, and then the solution provider gave us a permission to use AI solution features for the rest of the year free of charge. But there is an issue that a local compliance team will take half a year to approve that features. So it's basically they are free of charge, but they cannot use it. So this is the beauty of running an enterprise deals.
Wonderful, the beautiful world of enterprise deals, such as it is. But let's talk a little bit about your then transition into founding a recruiting company, because that's not an obvious switch. Recruiting, from what you've told me, it hasn't been on your responsibilities list so far. It's a little bit of a different thing. So why recruiting?
So it was on responsibility list when I was head of sales in 3 different companies, because in Lithuania it's quite common to assemble your team by yourself, as no one wants, like, or at least we try to save money on recruitment, right? And comparing to UK or to US, where it's a typical thing. But there are 2 other factors that when I was sensed that our startup is going out of money and running out of money, right? Then I was thinking like what to do next. And I started to listen the US podcast, How to Make Your First Million, right? And we were pitching, the easiest way basically to run agency based on your experience. And then I was like thinking that my passion is basically network with people, connect 2 different people that they can, benefit from each other. And I was doing free of charge a lot of intros where it ended up as an employment. And just by listening to the podcast, identifying my strengths, I basically thought, maybe I'm gonna try, and I started pitching this idea to friends, and everyone said, like, majority of them said, man, this is an amazing, do it. Totally see you as a matchmaker, And I started doing it, and it really got well. People start paying money. Even friends paid money who had the businesses. And this is how I got, approval, right? I even started with my personal Gmail email, right? I just established the entity, but, I didn't have a brand, anything.
Yeah.
To this day, yes, some people still say that, Edvin, are you going to still do sales recruitment because you can do better, right? Running an agency is kind of like outdated business model, but for the time being, I kind of still see myself doing this matchmaking.
Is it just a personal preference, or have you found some success? Because I know that right now you have transitioned from that stage of having just a Gmail and just doing it on your own. You now have a brand, you now have a team.
Yeah. What do you mean by...
So do you see yourself growing the agency further, or are you just enjoying yourself and filling it out as you go along? Or like, what's your current state? Why do you think that doing the agency is still a good thing?
Yeah, so basically, we reached now a 3rd stage of the agency, because first stage was just me establishing it, trying to, get orders and earning first income. Then the 2nd stage was having a 2nd, 3rd, or 5th employee. I achieved that. So then another stage was like, expanding to 10 people. And what I see now that going to the 4th stage, expanding even more, now it's becoming quite difficult, especially when you own a niche only. And then you are in such a small market as Lithuania or Baltics, right? Because recruitment as IT development as well are such a competitive industry. There are hundreds of thousands of service providers. And that's why, me networking with LinkedIn influencers, networking, and with other service providers helps to expand. But so the next stage would be, to becoming a proper European agency and either having entities in different countries, not merging, but basically cooperating with similar agents as well.
So, makes sense. So your current focus is on the Baltics specifically, or what kind of?
It naturally happens because especially recruitment is very network driven and trust driven. So basically, it is okay for Americans to find European employees, and they don't care if I'm Lithuanian, Latvian, or German, right? But then a German company is looking for a German employee, and me being a Lithuanian trying to help them, does not make much of a sense. So that's why it's not so easy to basically expand outside and to be truly European. But we do a lot of positions for Lithuanian businesses. Basically, now it used to be the trend that If you are a Lithuanian business, you want to expand into the Germany, you try to find some German-speaking person in Lithuania.
Mm-hmm.
Now, majority of the companies, we understand that it's better to hire in Germany, local ones, and just use the network, and that's majority of deals where we work as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. So that transition then, how do usually companies approach hiring a salespeople from your perspective? What do they look for? Maybe what kind of mistakes they made when identifying what kind of salesperson they need?
We have a joke that every time company lists the skills that they need, it always burning eyes, hungry, and commission driven. It's like I don't know. I'm sometimes joking, like, should I bring hungry, unfed person into the meeting so you could feel that he really wants some food or something. So, but yeah, usually companies have that. Cliches of sales reps that they have to be good looking, very talkative, then kind of James Bond style, right? That they fill the room, they accommodate you, they can do cold calls all day long, right? And they magically gonna bring you new customers and so on.
Yeah.
So this is like typical expectations. And of course, if they know any languages, additional languages, if they have an experience and so on. But our goal is to bring them into reality, right? That yes, there are some of the people with these skill sets that I described, but in most of the cases, usually they're business owners, right?
Mm.
Because if you are good at, and you are so magical and James Bond style, most likely you are successful, right?
Yeah.
And this is the case. So our goal is basically to educate the hiring side and educate the candidates, and to make them match with each other and basically cooperate properly in order to achieve the goals.
Okay. And then from the candidate side, can you give us some insight as to how candidates view the market and how they select their companies?
Some of the candidates, and now we have that soft approach to the company, that they expect remote positions. They expect that you don't need proactively look for the clients. They expect that the KPIs or metrics are not so hardly tracked, and usually they tend to treat traditional sales management, like you're tracking weekly KPIs, daily performance, and so on, as a micromanagement as well. So that's why we need to leverage them between, guys, this is a standard, and it was always like that in sales, right? That you have your KPIs, you have your targets, you have your daily metrics, and then basically you need to perform in order to stay it, right? Yeah. It's the same like in any sports. If you are part of a basketball team, and you miss and always, the game or even the shots, you get fired, right? In most of the case. So the same with sales. So.
Yeah, makes sense. Sales and sports do have very tight parallels a lot of the time. They require a lot of energy. The younger ones can be as successful as the older ones just by virtue of having that energy, and so on and so forth. Can you tell me then a little bit about what's the usual type of company that looks for those kinds of salespeople? Are those tech companies or manufacturing companies? That mid-market, complicated B2B salesperson that we have talked about so far, what kind of companies usually need them?
Yeah, so all the companies who either manufacturing something or produce something, right? Have something to offer, either it's a service or product or whatever.
Yeah.
They usually need sales, and there are a few stages, right? Like owner-led sales, or like CEO-led sales at the beginning, or founder-led sales, as we say. And then in a later stage that you need to replicate yourself and have someone to do sales. So the mid-market usually they focus either on the local market or on exports in the foreign markets. And basically, the idea is if you have a specific market with a specific language skills, usually you try to prefer and find someone who match that criteria. But yeah, the companies who really want to expand and then just grow, you need sales, because I haven't seen the company who magically grew by market demand, right?
Yeah. I mean, B2C probably where like product-led growth is there. You don't really need a salesperson, but it's a whole different motion.
Yeah, but we spend a lot on marketing, and then it's a different, expenses.
Like when you sign up on your own, you need more leads. Like just the amounts of leads that you need is kind of a different thing, but it still stands. If we combine sales and marketing into one singular kind of funnel, you cannot exist without it. Just growing organically through word of mouth or whatever.
Even growing organically, right? You still need someone who takes care of your clients, right?
Yeah.
So, there is that joke that I know some sales like, selling, and some just, giving you, right, the package into your hands. But in general, B2B sales, you need either account managers, you need sales representatives, you need business development managers, right? Who help your business even sustain, to grow, or to expand to other countries and so on.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. Can you talk a little bit more as to the types of salespeople that you usually try and hire? So you've mentioned business development managers, sales representatives. What kind of other roles, and what's the difference between them for those that don't know?
Yeah, so it always starts, from junior sales reps, and usually they do whatever you need them to do. But in most of the cases, you prefer that they approach new customers, at least call them, try to book meetings for you once you go to the conference or you try to visit someone, right? Then account executives, or like sales representatives, depending if you're selling SaaS, it's kind of account executives. If you're selling non-SaaS, it's usually sales representative. So they do meetings, we meet customers, sometimes we take full sales cycle as well. And then there is this BDM, or like business development manager. In most of the cases, that means that you need to work with other markets, other countries, and you need to expand and basically look for long-term partners. I know, for example, you need a distribution partner in Netherlands, right? Yeah. Or in Poland, and so on. Or you are logistics company and you need someone, to deliver goods, right? So that would be a business development. And then, of course, team leads. So team lead usually means that you are playing coach, which, you have your own quota, you have a small team, usually 3 people, you are more senior, they trust you, and you are like, coach, but you still sell. Then, of course, head of sales is, or director of sales is like, more senior role. VP of sales in reality is, if you are really VP of sales, you should have sales directors under you, and then we have team leads, and then we have sales reps, and then we have junior sales, right? So you are king of the pyramid. But yeah, and it's more corporate role, but sometimes in startups we like this VP of sales role, and so on.
Why so?
It sounds good, it's not like sales director, it's more like, traditional role, but VP of sales, we like, in US, we like president, right? They all presidents, right, of their own company. It sounds really good, I'm a president, one-man show, right? But still president, so.
Yeah, that's true. That makes sense. That does add to the prestige.
One funny thing, I used to speak with a company who they were a custom IT development company, and they had a request from one client to scrape all the titles from LinkedIn. Guess at which number they stopped?
I don't know, like thousands?
It was 3-point-something million.
Oh my God.
Because look, a ninja, a guru, right? Father, and so on. And people were so creative with titles. And I'm speaking with all of them, right? Not about the sales. But it shocked me as well. And I thought, like, how many titles can it be? 10?
Yeah.
10,000, right?
Yeah,
So,
like thousands. Like,
yeah,
sure, you have your directors, you have your VPs of, functions like recruiting and sales
yeah.
and engineering and stuff like that. Yeah, millions is.
So this is the reality,
Mhm.
of titles. In
So how do you then identify what is and isn't a good salesperson when you try and find them? So I understand, of course, networking helps, right?
Yeah.
And you know people personally, you know what they're capable of. But when you scale, you probably need more than that. How do you do it?
So this is the thing with the sales recruitment, because I always tell myself that technical recruitment is much easier because you show a code and person understands it or not, right? With sales, it's a lot of soft skills.
Yeah.
And that's why the sales representatives, we always tell to our customers that it's very important to understand what you sell, in which field, to what kind of customers you sell, and then do reverse engineering of what person you need, right? So once you know what type of a person you need, you start looking for someone with exact skill set, at least as close as possible. And once you find that person, there is that bullshit filter, right? That everyone knows everything, everyone did the biggest deals and so on. And we use very simple approach. Since we are from sales ourselves, we ask, we dig deeper into every deal. If you brought a very massive deal, okay, let's talk, So how you managed to find the deal, right?
Right.
Who was part of the deal? How long would it took to close the deal? What kind of challenges you had, and so on. And if you really close that deal, you can tell me for 2 hours, right? Non-stop, probably. I could even say it's enough. Thank you. Right? Because majority of sales guys, they come from I landed, I don't know, Carlsberg, I landed, Boeing, and so on and so on. And you understand that, come on, dude, you worked for 1 year in a company and you landed Boeing, right? Really? So, but yeah, simplifying the answer, you really need to dig deeper and ask, specific questions. And for us, it's easy because we are from sales. We tried once to do technical role, and I understood that apart from asking simple questions, I cannot evaluate people, and this is probably why it's so difficult for some technical founders as well.
Yeah. If you come back to that example of basketball players and salespeople, when you're hunting for a good basketball player, you can just look at their previous games and you will see whether or not they hit the basket or they miss the basket most of the time. With sales, you can't exactly go to their previous employer and tell them, okay, can you just upload all of your CRM data and we'll analyze it for the last 3 years, whether or not your salespeople perform well or no. So like a lot of it is just hearsay, I guess.
And another thing as well, that you have to understand that you cannot be successful in all the positions as a sales rep.
Yeah.
Then I worked in biopharmaceutical field as a BDM. I lasted 1 year, and then both sides were very happy that I decided to leave, because it was just a matter of either they're gonna fire me or I'm gonna find another job. Because I don't understand the market. I don't understand what we sell, and it's not natural for me, right? And then I understood that the pitch that you can do anything, you are unlimitless, right? That the Americans pitch to us. It doesn't apply in all the situations. That's why some people are very good at B2B sales in traditional field, I know retail, right? And then we move to fintech, and we don't understand this payment gateways, IBANs, IBANs, AMS, and so on. And then you understand that, you were amazing salesman at retail, and you really suck at fintech.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Salespeople are very much dependent on the context of what is it that they're selling. And I believe that that's why a lot of kind of famous tech sales where everybody talks about are like, Salesforce or, like Dynamics or, Google Cloud, like solutions that are packaged that you can understand if you really try. And then the harder things are, consultancies and outsourcing companies and whatever else, like manufacturing, where you really need to understand the industry that you're in, and you sell to people that usually understand that industry much more than you do, regardless of how well you understand that, then it creates a whole challenge. And you ask yourself, like, do I even need to do this? Why not go and sell something that I do understand, that I am passionate about?
Yeah, and another issue as well that you mentioned Salesforce, right, or big logos. You can be super successful with a big logo behind you because it's not only you. You just taking you're part of a trip, right? Where it's already going well. It's it's scaling crazy, and you just need to land the deals and to follow the playbook. But what happens that and people sometimes become so confident they can sell anything, and they move from big logo to no logo company, and then they understand that they cannot sell. That big logo was the main driver why they closed the deals. They're amazing at following, the process, and we have even some professional sales guys who tell us, if the company doesn't have a product market fit, I'm not gonna join that company because I'm not good at bringing new business. I'm amazing at closing the leads that inquires your services, and that's massive difference, So.
Yeah, that's what I also experienced when I would hire salespeople. Is like, okay, if you're great at closing the deal that is like 90% there, those 10% are not the hardest 10% that are left. The hardest ones are actually getting the deal through the door and creating the proposal in a way that it makes sense. And then just reading the results, I mean, like, it has its value, of course, but it's not the most valuable thing in a deal. And you have to understand that as a salesperson.
Yeah, so that's the thing, because sales are so complex and so multi-channel and multi-level, so to say, from complexity side, and everyone treats still sales as one dimension, right? So but then you dig deeper, you start understanding that it's so many different things. The same like in IT world, right? You can be front end, back end, and that's it that I know, right? But there are plenty of things that separate developers, right?
Yes, of course. There's seniority. There is just the type of the development process that you oversee. And nowadays with AI, like, even the whole dimensions of front end and back end kind of get blurred a little bit. And there always have been full stack people and DevOps and QA and analysts and business and systems analysts are different things. And then there's maintenance, and then there's refactoring, and blah, 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 blah.
And look, that's why even now the best AI developers get billions, right? To join top of the companies. So the same with the sales guys. Some of the sales reps, they make a massive career. For example, in New York, in LA, you can get VP of sales with the base salary of 500,000, 600,000, plus commission couple of millions, plus stock option. And if you are that type of a guy who can hit the wave, of this top of the companies, you can become a millionaire, multimillionaire.
True. See, that's what I wanted to ask as well. So you mentioned in the beginning that the kind of the perfect salespeople that can do everything, that fill the room, that are James Bond types, those usually go on and find their own business and succeed in that way, because sales is like the metric of success of any business, as we've talked about, right? If you can sell anything to anyone, then sell your own stuff and take all of the money back to you. Is that always the case, or are there those rare positions where people hire for specific people, for specific like unicorns that you just have to find a perfect fit, person who knows their industry and they're willing to pay them a lot and he'll be like a VP of whatever, or those kinds of positions don't exist?
It exists, and there is no one answer, because that James Bond type of a sales professionals, some of them, they're very hard at managing daily processes, and that's why they never run their own business, because they're just bad at taking care of the daily stuff and CRMs and so on and so on. So that's why a company who has a good product market fit and who can benefit from the superpower just, to be out to attract people and to bring leads and to close deals, they are perfect match because company has a very good solution. And then that James Bond type of a sales rep has a perfect sales skills, right? And they combine each other and both makes money, right?
True.
In some of the cases, a person is very good at understanding the issues, very good at bringing new customers, and they even are technical. Man, they are one of the best founders in the market and probably one of the richest people as well.
True, yes. If you can combine that sales excellency with particular industrial know-how, then you're probably already a millionaire at the very least.
Yeah. And, the trend that you need to own your business yourself, I would say it's a bit overrated because you can have an amazing life, being employed, being at a successful company, reaching your quota, getting bonus paid, getting respect, and so on, and still, do not own all the issues behind that, right?
Yeah.
That founders have. So
yeah, it's never a one-way street of success, even if your business is successful in a sense, right? Like even the most successful businesses in the world, like take your OpenAI. Technically, OpenAI is not profitable.
And not successful yet, right?
Yeah, like it has billions invested in it. Everybody knows it. It can pay millions to its employees. But at the same time, if you're Sam Altman, you're under a lot of pressure to make that business actually turn a profit. And right now, it's a very theoretical problem. Or even if you take the super profitable ones like Meta, Facebook, right? Like Zuckerberg gets invited into Congress to talk about antitrust laws like every other year. And he has to go there and he has to kind of maintain a very robust system. And he is liable if something goes wrong.
Yeah.
And the people that actually do the sales behind that, they just make the money and they go away. They don't risk anything in that sense.
And another thing that, now raising money became like a success story, right?
Yeah.
But actually it's an opposite. They borrowed you money that you don't need to pay, but you give away part of your company. And that's the same like I would go, to the bank, I would borrow 200K and I would say, dude, let's celebrate. I just got 200K. Yeah, we can celebrate, but you need to pay them back either with stock options or, or just pay it back with your profit, right?
Yeah.
And that's why everyone is really happy. We raised that a lot of money. So
yeah, that's true. That's the whole.
No one's celebrating that. Oh, we earned the 200K this year, right? As a profit. So
yeah. That's what I like about the quieter business, the more traditional business that is just predictable and profit driven versus startups that are investor driven, hype a lot of the time. Like I appreciate startups founders. I understand how complicated it is to raise that kind of money and to showcase that early traction. That's not easy at all. But personally, as a person who's been in business for a long time, I kind of like the simplicity of, okay, you do something good, people like it, they buy it, you earn money from it more than you realistically need in the moment. You reinvest some back to make whatever it is that you're making even better for more people, and they give you more money, and on and on and on and on and on it goes. Yeah, you won't become like a unicorn of like $1 billion valuation with having zero actual net profit, but you'll make hundreds of thousands probably, and it's still not a small amount.
Of course, we all chase this status, right?
Sure.
And big success, and we keep on hearing stories that founders became, unicorns, and then they moved to LA or to London, right, or somewhere, and then we suddenly understood that they are the least successful person in the room because other founders has multi-billion, right, dollars and so on, and then the race is never off, right? You need to play the game until you decide that it's enough. Another thing, raising money. It's not for everyone because, for example, I even have candidates to whom we pitch new positions, right? And we say that, oh, it's amazing, it's hyper growth and so on. And we say, who is investors, right? Is it a bootstrapped company or the VC-backed company? And we say VC-backed. Oh, sorry, I don't want to join. And some of them, because we had that journey and we had that push, that you need to grow, and we say, no, I don't want to join such a company. And I respect that as well, right? For some, it's very attractive. For some, it's a disadvantage basically to be a part of such a race.
Can you maybe elaborate on why that may be a disadvantage for candidates specifically?
Not because when you're a bootstrapped company, you make your own decisions, right? And usually you're always profitable because you don't have the capacity, or like a long runway of the VC money.
Yeah.
That's why you do not have such a pressure to grow and to innovate every year, even every quarter, as you said. For example, Sam Altman, right? He needs to do every time someone do anything with AI. Everyone looks at him and like, dude, why not you, right?
Yeah.
And with the VC, usually the thesis is always like this: that you have a product market fit or some innovation. We're gonna give you 2 million, 20 million, 200 million, whatever, right? With your case. And within 2-3 years maximum, you need to triple, double, or even, you need to double every year in order to really be successful. And that's why you took that money. And all employees feels that pressure because you need to grow and deliver and deliver. And the same with Favro when we raised 4.5 million and we start scaling, we start growing, team members, products, travel around the globe. Then the pressure built and we missed one quarter, another quarter, third quarter, and the mood is suddenly very down because, board are disappointed, investors are disappointed, employees feel pressure, even though we grew, on the smaller trajectory, but not so as expected, right?
Yeah.
And then suddenly you are, disappointed in everything.
Yeah, true. It's a very complicated thing, like even on a mental health front, where you, especially in long, complex sales, right? Most of the time you are faced with negativity. Like even the best salespeople out there that I have seen, you never have a positive conversion rate where it's more than 50%. It's usually less than 50%. Like most of the time, your deals will end up in failure, regardless of what you do. That's just statistics. You cannot beat that. You can fight around like maybe it's 30%, maybe it's even 40%, maybe you're even approaching that like coin flip.
Yeah.
Maybe. If you're very lucky, if you have like product market fit, that's great, and leads that aren't garbage and everything, right? If you're in the best position that you can be, it's still a lot of the time a coin flip because, somebody selects on a criteria that you have nothing to do. Like somebody likes people that they have went to school with and they're like, okay, I'll choose somebody that I went to school with and that's it. You cannot beat that. So like you work with that negativity a lot of the time. And even on top of that, when those hyper growth companies put more pressure on you, when you do win, you can't even celebrate those smaller in comparison the amounts of wins. And you still understand that, okay, I've won like 1 million, but I need like 10. It's so hard to live with that pressure, and you can't even celebrate that you've won 1 million, and 1 million is a lot. Like you can't realistically celebrate that.
Comparing to what, right? If your quota is 10 million, it's only 10%, so you're underwater, right? If you doubled or tripled your quota,
indeed.
Yeah. A lot of people doesn't understand one thing, that sales profession in general, by market standards, and I mean a title or position where you at lasts between 12 to 16 months by default, right? 18 months. Because either you are promoted, either your company went underwater and they fired you, you might be headhunted, and so on and so on, right? And it's not like IT roles where, you work with a project, you plan 2 weeks up front, everything is agile. In sales, everything is chaotic. Everyone can tell you, I know better how to sell. Let's try this idea, right? You are talking in a bad manner, and so on and so on. So, and that's why it's very hectic, and a lot of people, get tired of just being, told what to do and always being under underperformance, right? And
Yeah.
if you are lucky to join a company that it grows, man, when it's dopamine, when you're always, hooked on this and
True.
never satisfied.
True. And at the same time, those growth sprouts, they do come in waves. Very rarely a company just grows for like 20 years. I think that is way behind us. Maybe like in the last century, you would have a business that would just steadily grow over 20 years. We still have them, but they're so few and far between. Nowadays, you're like every 5 years or so, there's some disruption that completely breaks how the market works. And previously successful companies can be just annihilated overnight, basically, regardless of what you do. So even then, statistically speaking, when you do find success and growth, something may stop you from that sense.
Yeah, it might. You might left the company 2 months before we reach a tipping point, right?
Yeah.
And it happens, right? But I remember, for example, at Deeper, where it was one of the most successful Lithuanian hardware companies that just Lithuanians thought that instead of using boat sonar on the boat only, let's downsize it to tennis ball size hardware device attached to your rod, use Wi-Fi to use your phone screen. And when you at the shore, you cast it and you see what happens underwater, right? And then you can catch fish. And they grew from 0 to 12, 13 million euros in 4 years, I think so. And that was my journey, that I joined without understanding where I joined. But and when it exploded, but it exploded after 2.5 years. And I remember with the founders, we were joking that first part of the company, usually from 5 to 25 to 30 people, were the first employees who saw failure because they chose Bluetooth at the beginning. And Bluetooth works well on the ground, but it doesn't work on the water, right? Then, instead of 50 meters distance, it lasted only 12, 13 meters. And then we, as the sales guys, were doing a show, presentations at the shore, everything failed, it doesn't connect, people disappointed. We need to change the technology. Then we switched to Wi-Fi. And then Wi-Fi was a game changer because Wi-Fi was strong enough, to last 100 meters. And then everything switched and basically we became successful. So 2.5 years of being, always disappointed and ashamed at the presentations. And then the rest is the history because the company was acquired and so on. But that's the story, of sales, in general, sales, right? And then grow.
It's always two parts, right? You can be the best salesperson in the world, but you cannot sell garbage to people at the end of the day. Like you can, but you're not going to be super successful doing it at some point.
Yeah, it's a high velocity sales. You can sell a lot of, simple things and then just, never see that people again, right?
Yeah, as long as you have the time to run away and never see those people, then you can do it.
Door-to-door sales.
The Jordan Belfort approach, so to speak. But he got prison time in the end. So.
Yeah, but we promote him as a success, right? Because he is a James Bond type of a guy.
Yeah.
And you see, this is the ideal sales rep to majority of us, right? But if we compare him, for example, with a proper SaaS sales professional, probably they are more successful than he is. He's just famous, knows how to party, knows how to network, and so on, right? And this is we analyze people from the different angles, right?
Yeah. That is true. There are a lot of layers to sales that some underestimate, and again, some examples are bad for one reason or the other, but good for another reason. So, like Jordan Belfort. Probably a bad kind of example in terms of how you should live your life. Great example to build a movie around. Like,
to become a influencer and a star, right?
Yeah. He's a motivational speaker, and people pay him just to come in and speak about sales.
I was at his when he Pardavim Formula brought him, I don't know, 8 years ago.
Yeah.
he has the magic. He has, he can run his own sales church or whatever, and you can go every Sunday and to pump yourself up, with all this. Some people has a talent, and that's his talent. So.
True. At the same time, I would definitely imagine that he would just die in your typical enterprise sales environment where you have 10 people that you need to convince to move an inch forward with a deal that takes 3 years to close. There's not enough cocaine in the world to help you through that.
Yeah, but probably he would come up with such a creative idea, maybe, and so on. So I remember one story. My friend was doing an exchange program in US, and he joined one of the, I don't remember which state, but one of the largest marketing agencies there. And he told that they were fighting who will sign with the largest American football team, who will represent them. So, and I got surprised because one day he came to the office and said, everyone was dressed like this team. Everyone was cheering. Everywhere was only flags and so on. And that day, the meeting was happening with the team representatives. And this is how they got the deal. And then I thought, I would never think about this being a Lithuanian, right? Because for us, it's not a natural way.
Yeah.
But this is how you make sales, right? In American way. This is how you can be so creative that just you present to your customer that, look, I'm passionate as you are, right? I'm crazy about you. Give me that deal. I'm gonna crush it, right? And sometimes you win. It doesn't matter if you're most expensive, if you are, not the best runner to win this deal.
True. This is a great example, honestly. Yes, a lot of people underestimate the extra mile that you can go in order to make a deal. And at the same time, you gotta look like fools a couple of times before you do, because even with that approach, you're going to lose something, just statistically speaking.
Always. You cannot win without losing, right?
Yeah, indeed. Well, to come back and kind of trying to wrap up our discussion, as a recruiting company, how does your business model work then? You said you have around 10 people and you have transitioned a little bit from just being network driven. Do you specifically source people and then bill for the end results, or how do you make money as a recruiting company?
Yeah, so recruitment company, it's a universal business model where you basically take a percentage from annual gross salary, and then it really depends, what percentage. Some people take 10, some people take 15, some Americans take 30 sometimes percent.
Wow.
From executives, right? Yeah. And do you charge retainer? Do you work on full success base and so on? And then it's creative accounting as
sales.
Yeah. Then it's really up to you how you want to get that money into your pocket.
And most of your team are recruiters then?
Yeah, they are recruiters coming from sales. They worked in sales and transitioned into recruiters. That helps them to understand the market. And yeah, we do recruit sales positions from any commercial roles, right? It can be account executives, account managers, juniors, seniors, heads, and so on. But yeah, this is our bread and butter, and our goal, is to unite sales representatives under one brand. They approach us sometimes, candidates approach us and ask, I have this deal from this company, what do you think? And we advise them, how to structure that deal. Is it market standard? If it's not, so we're not servicing only companies, right? We really want to help the profession in general to grow, to make people successful, to make companies understand, why they shouldn't hire any sales rep, but they should select them. And so I'm kind of seeing myself as becoming an agent, right? For the sales reps, coming back to basketball, right? As you like the basketball. So
yeah, that makes sense. I mean, we haven't stated this outright, but I'm guessing you are bootstrapped, so you're not pressured by VCs.
So if you in raising money to run agency, something is wrong, or unless Yeah, I know you have different, but usually to start an agency, you need a computer and a phone and yourself. That's it.
True.
That's why it's so many agents there.
Yeah, but at the same time, kind of again underrepresented because everybody thinks, oh, another agency, blah, 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 blah. But from your example, finding a niche and focusing on that niche that you understand and you know about can lead to success. And you don't need a lot of VC money to back you for mistakes, and you don't need a lot of runway or capital to start. And it makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah, but you have to understand, right? That when you do a traditional business, most of the time you don't need an extra capital, right? Unless it's manufacturing and so on. So that's why it should be different, because I cannot call myself as a startup, right? Yes, it's a new for me, but it's so traditional and so so many competitors in the market that it's just another one, right? And the startups, usually why they raise money, because they have totally new idea, totally new innovation or way of approaching. For example, I was surprised now Latvian startup, they are experimenting and they are quite successful now to pay with your palm. So it's not anymore like fingerprint only, not anymore your eye. They kind of understood that every person's palm is different, right? And then you basically can, instead of carrying your phone, you can even pay with it, right? And this is innovation that all big payment providers very interested.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, the guy was doing a PhD or something on on this biometrics, and then he came up with that idea. So this is a true startup. That's why you need a lot of money from VCs to make it either successful or to fail. But running an agency, now every second graduate runs an agency. Then they apply to find a job because they cannot get the agency running. They all pitch, oh, but I have an agency and so on. So yeah, that's why agency word is a little bit underestimated, and yeah, like everyone can do it.
Yeah, but that's the important part. It is competitive, but it is very feasible to do. And again, to kind of try and wrap up, what would your advice then be to salespeople that are now looking for their jobs, and to the hiring managers that are looking for their salespeople?
So always be very specific and selective, right? And first of all, you start from yourself. It's like, why you at what kind of sales you are good at, right? What kind of deals you understand, what kind of products you understand, and then focus on this type of sales, right? And for your hiring manager, the same. Don't be that person who believes that anyone can sell anything, right? And that's easy. You really need to be very selective. That really helps you to properly understand where you're at, what kind of customers you sell, and so on, because otherwise you're just dreaming and hoping, that you will be successful. And prepare, because a lot of people, especially here in Lithuania, that we don't have massive competition. And then people basically don't prepare for the interviews. They show up and they're like, all right, show me what you got. And you're like, did you read about us? They're like, no, you tell us, right? And then hiring manager is disappointed. You kind of think like, man, I should read it, but I don't care because I have a job and so on. So yeah,
that's good advice. That is good advice. Thank you very much.
One thing that we can speak as well a little bit about AI impact to sales.
Oh, yes. We have avoided AI, surprisingly so. This is the second episode in a row where we basically don't speak about AI. I am shocked. But let's do it. So what's your thoughts on AI in sales?
In sales?
Or in sales recruiting?
I can start in sales, because what we see that junior roles in sales are disappearing. And usually you join the sales team as a list builder, right? We call lead research specialist, or whatever you do. Excel, you type in Excel some numbers and so on. Now AI does all that thing, collects phone numbers, emails, aggregates Excel sheets, CRM now even run by AI. So it's quite difficult for the junior sales reps to get in. And sales reps in general, now they're moving from part-time sales of being responsible for a specific sales part, right? Moving to a full sales cycle, which basically, AI helps you to prepare. You do your outreach, you engage with the customer, you close the deal, and you move on, right? And we talk about mid-market, right? Enterprise, it's still complex. It requires much more effort.
Sure.
And from recruitment side, now it's common that candidates have multiple CVs prepared for multiple positions. And then, one day you're account manager, another day you're enterprise account executive, mid-market, sometimes you're business developer, and you change your CVs based on the positions, which is a bit annoying and time wasting, because you might get into the first interview, but then you basically waste a lot of time, unless, they don't understand the difference and you get in, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Does that happen a lot? Like, how do you handle that when you see kind of the same variations of the same person doing different types of CVs?
So here in the local market and small market, because you have to understand that Lithuania is such a small market, like it would be one town in US.
Yeah.
Because even Berlin has 4 million citizens, right? Yeah. And here we have 2.5. So working class, it's few 100,000 who are in Vilnius, right?
Yes.
So basically, we don't see many cases here in Lithuania because people are smart enough to understand that you can remember them. But in US, in other countries, it's a massive issue, because every time we recruit in US, we get 1,000 applications, 2,000 applications, and out of that 2,000 applications, only a few handful are proper, right? But somehow you need to evaluate all of these, and then AI comes into the help. But AI does mistakes, does mismatch, right? And so on. They fall for the same titles and then fake CVs.
Yeah. So it's a closed loop, right? Like AIs filter out the people, which makes the people make their CVs more specific to the positions with AI, which makes more applications, which makes more AI to filter out, and on and on and on and on and on and it goes.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that it basically it tricks you in, right? I remember what I wanted to say. Basically, now we have even interviews that person runs, interview, has a second screen or the phone off, and there is a voice enabled AI help. And, you speak with a person. English is okay, like European English, right?
Yeah.
Nothing bad, nothing great. But when they give you an answer, somehow it's such a fluent answer, right? And when he stops answering, and then actually gives you, and when you chit chat between the questions, and again, English is a bit rusty. So, yeah.
Oh my God. Like, I've never had that for salespeople or marketing people or where I'm hiring specifically, but we've had that as a company for engineers. For engineers, that is much more common. We have seen this so many times because there are a lot of questions that we ask and a lot of technical things that you have to do. And when a person gives like a super specific technical question and an answer to a technical question, and he's like super knowledgeable, and then you're like, okay, give me an example how you use this. And he's like, well, you kind of do like sort of, and you're like, come on, man.
Yeah. But I heard some people say that, some hiring managers, that they say, I don't mind because it shows that they can use the AI and be more productive. But you really need to understand, it's okay for you or not. Because one thing that me and you start using AI to do something that we never did before, right? Yeah. Editing videos, right? AI will help us, but are we good at editing videos? No, we can do that, but we are just beginners, right? Yeah. So the same with employees. You can Google everything, but if you don't understand how it works, what's the point?
Yeah, true. You are completely correct. Well, we are a little bit out of time, and I would like to continue this conversation, so maybe next time. But since we are wrapping up, where do people find you? Where can people read more of you or hear more of you?
So yeah, I'm active on LinkedIn. So if they type Edvin Vosylius, they can find me. And we have weahammers.com website. But yeah, trying to be where the hiring managers and candidates are, LinkedIn. So if you don't have LinkedIn and work in sales, something's wrong with you.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much on this. And thank you all as well for listening and tuning in. If there are any salespeople among you and you don't have LinkedIn, what is wrong with you? Do all of the algorithmically correct things to the video that you see or the audio that you hear. Like, share, subscribe, comment, all of that good stuff. It really does help. And tune in for the next one. Thank you very much.